Long before the muddy trenches of the Western Front carved their way into history, another battlefield existed beneath the waves, one where men descended into crushing darkness, armed with nothing but crude iron bells and raw courage. The 19th century deep-sea diving bell represented humanity's first true conquest of the ocean depths, a revolutionary salvage method that would recover lost fortunes, sunken warships, and drowned treasures from the seafloor. This wasn't the romantic adventure of Jules Verne's imagination. This was a brutal, suffocating contest between human ingenuity and the merciless pressure of the deep. The men who worked these bells understood survival in its purest form, isolated, resource-scarce, and utterly dependent on technique, preparation, and mental fortitude. Picture, if you will, an enormous cast-iron chamber, roughly the size of a small wagon, suspended from a surface vessel by heavy chains that groan and creak with every ocean swell. The diving bell operated on a principle as simple as it was terrifying. Air trapped inside the inverted chamber would compress under water pressure but remain breathable, creating a pocket of atmosphere in the underwater void. The interior was cramped, barely allowing two men to crouch side by side, their bodies pressed against cold metal walls that wept with condensation. Unlike modern diving equipment, these bells provided no mobility. They were stationary workstations lowered to precise locations above shipwrecks or construction sites. The crew inside relied entirely on signals transmitted through rope tugs to communicate with the surface, a primitive telegraph system where a single missed signal could mean death. Fresh air arrived through leather hoses, connected to hand-pumped bellows operated by exhausted topside crews, each stroke of the pump literally breathing life into the men below. As the bell descended through layers of green water turning progressively black, the men inside experienced a transformation of their environment that few land dwellers could comprehend. The air grew thick and metallic tasting as atmospheric pressure increased, compressing the breathable space and forcing the waterline higher up the bell's interior walls. At 60 feet, the pressure doubled. At 100 feet, it tripled, creating a physical sensation of weight pressing against eardrums and sinuses. The cold was penetrating and absolute, seeping through wool clothing and leather boots until fingers became numb and clumsy. Visibility beyond the bell's open bottom was measured in mere feet, illuminated only by primitive oil lamps whose flames burned weak and sickly in the compressed atmosphere. The divers learned to work by touch as much as sight, their hands reading the contours of shattered hulls and scattered cargo like a blind man reading Braille. The actual work of salvage required extraordinary fieldcraft adapted to the underwater environment. Divers used specialized tools, pry bars, rope slings, and curved hooks to secure objects that might weigh tons on the surface but became merely heavy in the water's buoyancy. Every movement had to be calculated and deliberate. A careless gesture could stir up blinding clouds of silt that took hours to settle, or worse, snag an air hose on jagged metal. The men developed an intimate understanding of their time limits, knowing that carbon dioxide buildup would begin causing headaches and confusion long before the air became truly unbreathable. They learned to recognize the signs, the dimming of the lamp flame, the increasing effort required to draw breath, the creeping drowsiness that whispered temptation to rest. When these warnings appeared, ascending immediately became the only rule that mattered, regardless of how close they were to securing a prize. What sustained these diving bell operators through countless descents into the abyss wasn't just technique. It was an unbreakable bond forged in shared vulnerability. The topside crew understood that the lives below depended on their constant vigilance, their steady pumping, their careful attention to every signal rope tremor. Below, the divers developed an almost telepathic communication, conserving words in the compressed air while conveying intent through gestures and shared understanding. This mirrors the same survival principle that would later sustain soldiers in the waterlogged trenches of World War I. Isolation breeds either collapse or profound connection, and those who survived chose connection. The diving bell salvage operations of the 19th century established principles that echo through every survival situation. Preparation overcomes panic, technique trumps strength, and adaptability determines who endures. Modern salvage operations, with their sophisticated, remotely operated vehicles and atmospheric diving suits, stand on foundations laid by men who descended in crude iron chambers. The lesson remains timeless. Mastery of your environment, no matter how hostile, begins with understanding its rules and respecting its power. Whether you're preparing for wilderness survival, studying historical resilience, or simply seeking to understand human capability under pressure, these forgotten salvage pioneers offer a masterclass in perseverance. If this journey into the depths of history and survival has stirred something in you, subscribe to Fieldcraft Chronicles and share this video with anyone who values self-reliance, historical truth, and the enduring human spirit.